Hey everybody, you're listening to Smoke Meat. I'm your host, Brad Pittman. Smoke Meat's brought to you by Joe's Underground at the corner of 8th and Broad in Augusta, Georgia, in the bottom of the Lamar building. Right now, everybody at Joe's is doing what they need to, and they're quarantining and staying safe and, just riding this thing out. They will be back, though, and when they're back, it's going to be one hell of a party. We're looking forward to it a lot. Right now, they do have some cool t-shirts on their Facebook page. Go to it, check it out, Joe's Underground. You don't want to be seen without a shirt because they are awesome. Just remember, I goes to Joe's and so should you. Corner of 8th and Broad in Augusta, Georgia, down in the bottom of the Lamar building. Today, my guest is George Rock. He's the host of the Meet Me for Coffee podcast. And we're going to sit down and have just a good old time and drink a little coffee and do a little jabbering. So here we go, people. Let's rumble.
Yep.
How you doing today, George?
I'm good. How are you?
Man, if I was any better, I'd be twins. Oh, yeah. A beautiful day. I'm down here, just rearranged the studio and kind of made everything a little bit more easy to work with. And have my lights on. And oh, yeah, we're grooving today.
You know what? The best thing about the studio, what I find, it's got to stay organized and it's got to stay clean.
Yeah.
For me, I'm always moving things around. And I have 3 kids, and they can be pretty noisy, especially the 2 older ones. They end up fighting, and people end up calling me and whatever during a podcast. The whole podcasting concept can be very stressful sometimes, especially if you have another life, right? So.
Yeah, a little bit. I'm pretty lucky. Mine's in the basement, and my kids will not come down here, which is awesome. And
yeah.
But at the same time, if they have the TV on too loud upstairs, you could hear Honey Boo Boo in the background of one of my podcasts. So I got to be mindful of that and make sure they keep it turned down. They know when I'm recording. And anybody that don't like Honey Boo Boo in the back of the podcast.
That's why you got to have a noise gate.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me, I'm in the basement now too. So like I originally had, I was doing voiceovers and the podcast in my basement, and I had to move it upstairs just to kind of get the sound that I wanted. But now I'm back in the basement as I've fully finished my studio, and I have a set now. So my podcasts will be in video format as well. And I'm really trying to push that. But the thing I'm kind of unsure about is that, do I want people to watch the video, or do I want people to listen to my podcast? And that's always something that people, I was doing another podcast with an acquaintance that was growing up, and we were doing the video thing.
Yeah.
And, people are watching the video, and they're not listening to the podcast. And podcasts, or in the first place, are very hard to get people to listen to. So that's one of my complexes right now.
Yeah, now, before I switched my host, the one I was on would go on ahead and post them to not Facebook, but they would do Facebook, but also to YouTube for me, and I would still get credit for the hits on YouTube. The host I'm on now doesn't do it, but I'm still wanting to do my YouTube thing. So I'm kind of torn as to whether to keep doing that or not.
I find YouTube really buries a lot of the stuff I post. I'm part of another show as well called the World Rock Countdown, and just posting stuff on there. I find I'm not getting a lot of the attention that I want, unless I want to pay for it. But then the way social media works is that, hey, you can invest money in posting, and then after that, anything else you post might not get too many hits. Yeah. So YouTube for me is out. Right now I'm just focusing on Facebook and Instagram, and I'm contacting celebrities and musicians via email or by phone. I like to take them by surprise, right?
Yeah, a little ambush.
Nice little ambush.
I actually just started with Twitter, and I'm kind of pleased with it. I've had some good results. I've got a couple of really good people that are, I'm working with them about coming on, and that surprised me. I just caught them on Twitter, and it wound up hitting. I'm like, holy crap, okay. So I'm
Well,
just
yeah.
kind of learning as I go, and always got to do that. But I do love podcasting because it's to me, it's like being on radio without all the restrictions that I had. You know,
Yeah, you can drop it. You can drop an F-bomb if you want, and it's your show, it's your rules, and there's no FCC behind you, kick you in the butt after or spank you after you say a bad word. For me, like, let's be real here. In actual life, I'm a really tame person, and obviously I swear, and I like to crack jokes like anybody else, probably more than other people. I find myself to be a bit of a comedian, same as you. But in all aspects, like the podcasting thing, right now anybody can be a podcaster.
Yeah.
And I always say that to many people. And you can be a podcaster. I had a person, one of my closest friends, talk to me the other day, and he's like, I want to do a podcast, but I'm not sure if my subject has been covered yet. Well, you're not sure your subject, you don't want to do the podcast, you're not really too sure, then don't do it. But I also invest in the quality of the podcast, the quality of the content. And I know you have it too. I listened to your interview with Sean Kanan, and I listened to your interview with Stephen Joyner, who we know mutually, and he's got some stories that I didn't know about.
Yeah.
And the best part about this is that, to me, when you talk to somebody, you are a good interviewer. Brad, you know what you're doing. You're able to make them laugh. You're able to get the stories out of them. People want to hear a real person. And in radio, we really talk at people. Like, hey, today this is going on. But it should be, hey, guess what? We got this awesome event happening. I hope you can come.
Yeah.
You see how I made it all personable there?
Yeah, in my early ones, I did try and do the radio voice interview thing. Like, so where are you from? And that is, like I say, it's not organic. I want people to hear me. Not anybody can do that voice, or I can anyway. But
exactly.
And I'll have them for 10 seconds. But just us talking, we're here all day.
Because we can talk all day, and in radio it's 30 seconds and you're out. I mean, obviously I've been in the radio industry for quite some time, and I had to step back a bit. It was a very, once you lose your first job, your second job in radio, because of restructuring or they want to go a different way, it's very hard to get back on your feet, especially if you don't want to travel and join another radio station that's obviously going to you have to cut costs and go out there and sign a contract where you won't be able to afford anything. And the truth is, radio really affects the people on the air because they're underpaid. A lot of them deal with a lot of financial issues, debt, and whatever, because they love their craft. The passion, for me, it's always been radio. Yeah. I was 5 years old. I heard a dude on the radio, and I'm just saying radio too much, but I heard the guy on the radio, and I always wanted to do that since then.
Yeah.
Right?
And
it was my dream to be on the radio, man, and then I did it. And then at one point I was like, I could do this myself. And that's where you draw the line, right? You got to stand up for yourself. So I decided to take another job, an engineering job, and I did that with hopes of launching my own show, because I've always been big into rock and roll. I love rock and roll. I love discovering new rock and roll. And when I was back in my teenage years, at 16 years old, I was an A&R rep for a company that was a pioneer to iTunes. Mm-hmm. And that's how I began discovering bands. And I always enjoyed that. But when I was working at the station, I'd always recommend this artist. Hey, check out this artist. Check out this artist. Oh, we don't play that stuff. We don't play that stuff.
Yeah.
We won't give that guy a chance. Radio's supposed to be there to get, we have a lot of things in the code for putting music on the airwaves. And something here in Canada, we have a thing called CanCon, Canadian Content. So everything that goes on the radio, 35% of that, all the music played, has to be Canadian. And right now in Canada, I'm in Canada, by the way, if you haven't figured that out, just outside of Toronto, Ontario, and they're not doing that. They're not doing that at all. It's always the bands, the big bands that get the grants, the big bands that get on the radio, big Canadian bands that hit it big because they are big. They have the money. They have the money to pay the payola, to get on the radio. It's like the days of the Rat Pack. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You know, one thing, my first job in radio was at a small station down in McRae, Georgia called WYSC. And it's what I call a dollar a holler station. You know, where that's basically what the ads were. You know, a 30-second ad was $1. So obviously we did a lot of commercials, so I got to learn about production doing that. But the freedom I had on that station, my boss was basically, as long as you don't cuss, we're okay. So I kind of got to develop this style there. And it was so great. I didn't make hardly any money, but I had a really good time because I had that freedom. You know, it was when Achy Breaky Heart came out. First time I heard it, loved the song. The 8 millionth time I heard it, I despised it. And when people would call in and request it, I would play it. But I would play it by Alvin and the Chipmunks. Every time.
Achy Breaky Heart.
Yep.
Who's the guy who's saying that?
Billy Ray Cyrus.
Billy Ray Cyrus, that's right.
Oh, yeah.
That guy, he always slips my mind every time I hear that song. It's like, who is this guy? I know he is. He's Miley Cyrus's dad. I can't make it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's all repetitive. You know, Uptown Funk with Bruno Mars and Mark Ronson a couple of years ago. Do you remember that song?
Oh, yeah. And now it's stuck in my head. Thank you so much.
Well, you know, it was stuck in my head, and then I ended up getting a bit frustrated. So the station I was working at, I made a sign. And I said, any more requests for Mark Ronson and Bruno Mars, Uptown Funk, that'll be $50 because I can't stand that song anymore. It's kind of like it drilled into your head, and then it disappears after a while, and it just so contemporary, right? But the cool thing I discovered about you is that you're stand-up comic, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, I've been doing stand-up for close to 30 years.
Wow. I've wanted to do that. You know, I know Larry Hankin, he's working on some stand-up too.
Oh, Larry is awesome.
Yeah, and I had him on my show, and just the stories this guy has to tell. Usually you don't tune in for a whole 2-hour podcast, but I have about 500 people that actually watched the whole video of him and I right through.
Yeah, I mean, Larry's just so awesome. I could do 20 podcasts with him.
Yeah, he does. He tells a mean story, and there will be another 3 or 4 episodes with him because I haven't got enough, and I haven't got enough substance, and I haven't got the whole story. I want the whole story about his career because he's an old guy, right? He's got all the cool, hip tales of some old Hollywood because he was just getting there when old Hollywood was becoming what it is today. So, you know, a guy like that can give you advice. He can be open about how he feels and talk about stories and interactions he had in the industry, getting to where he was. And he slept on his friend's couch, and his friend wrote Jaws. You know, that's how he came into showbiz. You know, and it's just incredible. Again, podcasting gives you another platform and a more mellow, down-to-earth platform than radio does, right? Yeah. In radio, you have probably like 5 minutes to talk to somebody, and it better be good. Yeah. In podcasting, you can talk to whoever, and for how long? You know, your radio show, and from what I understand, we like playing by our rules, right, Brett?
Exactly. The programming director's not going to call me today. So, like I say,
I'm not getting called to the office.
Yeah, you know, I remember one time it was around Christmas time, and this was at another station, and Toys for Tots was coming around. So we were all having to read the PSA for Toys for Tots, and I wouldn't read it. And he called me into his office and said, "Look, man, this is a good charity. You have to read this." I said, "No." He said, "Well, you have something against this." I said, "No, I donate every time I get a chance." He said, "Why won't you read it?" I said, "What do you call a Marine with a truckload of vibrators?" He said, "I don't know what." I said, "Toys for Twats. Do you still want me to read it?" He said, "Nope, you're exempt." So, yeah, the only win I ever had over my programming director.
Starting out, the program director was always on me, everything I did wrong. My parents are my biggest fans, but they were on me as well. It felt like I was going to court every time I had a radio show, and I had the luxury of pre-recording it so I could be home for Sunday dinner or dinner that night. And we listened to my radio show, and they would grill me over everything I said. Again, we're going back like the big fat Greek life. I'm Greek, and everything counts. And there's some pretty crazy stories I could tell you, and you will not believe it. But that's with every family.
Oh yeah.
I want to start doing the stand-up comedy thing.
It's easy to get into. A lot of people say it'd be so hard to get on stage, and it's not. The hardest part is once you learn to just let go and just have fun with it, and you'd be amazed how easy it is. When I get up there, I know I'm never going to be rich as a comic. After 30 years and I've not been discovered, hello. But I have fun. I like making people laugh, and it works. And that's just all you got to do is get up there and understand, okay, I'm going to have fun. If anything happens, it happens. If it doesn't, I still had a good time. And I highly suggest it. I mean, right now everything's closed down, so it's really hard to do live comedy. But a lot of people will give you set rules for comedy. It's like podcasting. There are none. You have people who think there are, but there are not any rules.
Yeah, there's no rules, and it's a great time now to start doing your little skit. Right? You practice the material. Unfortunately for me, I don't get the laughs I should at home.
Yeah.
I joke around with my family, and sometimes they get it, and other times they just look at me when I know the joke is funny, when I know it's funny, right?
Yeah.
And maybe I just need to set up a crowd and just perform in front of them, maybe for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, see if I can get some laughs. I'll even dress up in like shorts and dress socks or whatever, and with a wife beater, and try and make them laugh right off the bat.
Oh, yeah.
The whole entertainment industry is great. I was talking to Sean Kanan yesterday, and I asked him, this guy's been on many shows. He's been on your show. He's been on General Hospital, Bold and the Beautiful, Young and the Restless, VIP with Pamela Anderson. You name it. This guy is the man. He's a very down-to-earth guy, and of course, being the host of Meet Me for Coffee, he does love coffee, so that's a very big thing for me. I asked him, what keeps you engaged? What do you like about show business? The creativity, the freedom. Obviously, Sean has been part of his own show, which is Studio City now, with Amazon Prime.
And it is so awesome. I want more of it.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't watched it because apparently it's only available on Amazon in the U.S. So we had a bit of a falling out there. I was like, it's not available in Canada. I'm used to it, though, because Netflix screws us over, too. And we get limited material here in Canada, which really sucks. So I guess there is a license to go outside of the country to be played on Netflix and Amazon. So he's working on that. He wrote a book. He has his own cookbook as well, like I heard on your show. And I love to cook. I pride myself in my cooking. I love it. It's like therapy, right?
Oh yeah, it definitely is.
And being a guy who's over 300 pounds myself, I have a few nicknames, and one of them is the lover of gluttony. And I love to eat. I love that smoked barbecue like you do with the coleslaw and then those beans and a good Cajun rub. I I like to eat with the fat boys because I am one.
That's me. I'm right on 300, and I'm working on it. But at the same time, I love to eat and I love to cook. And I tell you, next time you cook any kind of pork or any kind of chicken, here's what to put on it: regular chili powder, equal parts of regular chili powder and country thyme lemonade mix. That's it, equal parts of them. And as it cooks, as it cooks, the sugar in that lemonade mix caramelizes. It's a wonderful thing. I've got one rub that has over 30 ingredients, and it's a really good rub. But this one is my go-to because it's simple.
You make your own rubs? Do you package them as well? Or?
No, I just make my own. I've never packaged them. But yeah, I'll send you some recipes for some rubs, man. I can hook you up.
I'm all ears. There's one ear that's supposed to listen to my wife, and the other one will listen to you about food. So I think I'll just focus my attention on the food.
There you go.
I have a hard time listening.
Yeah. Do you eat much fish?
Always catches my attention.
Do you eat much fish?
I eat everything, man. Everything.
Well, next time you bake fish, get some peaches and puree them, and take an equal part of heavy cream and put in with it. And mix that. Put 1 spoon of red pepper flakes in there and reduce it by about half, and put that on your fish. It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. So you eat pretty good.
I do.
That's the consensus I'm getting.
I do. And don't get me wrong, heavy cream, not the greatest thing in the world, but the majority of what I cook is actually fairly healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, you got
cooking's so therapeutic as well, right? And, just making that dish. I made a pasta sauce just because all the recipes now, they're all accessible. I go on Pinterest. You know that site?
Yeah.
I go on there and I look at recipes, and I made my own barbecue sauce once for some ribs. It's so good. It's just all barbecue sauce really is vinegar, maybe some mustard and some ketchup. That's all it all really is. And we end up buying it in the bottle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'll send you my barbecue sauce recipes too. I've got a mustard sauce that is awesome.
And I'll send you a picture of my face covered in barbecue sauce.
You got to sign it because it'll go on my wall of fame, which I'm putting together. And
Smoke Meat Wall of Fame.
Yep. And the cool thing, a lot of people with vinegar and barbecue sauce, I don't use vinegar. I'll use tamarind. I'll boil a little bit of tamarind root and make a tea out of it, because vinegar, as you cook it, loses some of its sourness. Tamarind doesn't lose any. So you use that instead of vinegar.
Where did you discover your passion to cook?
Well, I've been a paramedic for almost 30 years and been around a fire department. That's a big thing. You have to be able to cook. And almost 5 years ago, I had 2 strokes. And processing meat actually helped me get through that. Because I have a friend who loves to hunt, but he doesn't like wild game. So when he kills something, he gives it to somebody so it's not wasted, And he would give me and my friend, he'd kill hogs, he'd kill deer, and call us and say, hey, I've got one come out. So, for 4 or 5 months, that's all I was doing was processing meat. So, I make my own sausage. I make a deer pastrami. It's amazing.
I love beer pastrami. Beer pastrami sounds even better. But,
oh, yeah.
I like a nice beer. I like a nice scotch or a nice whiskey. I'm really into the whiskey now.
Have you tried
Alka has the whiskey.
Mm-hmm. Can you get lead slingers up there?
I've seen it on the shelf, I think.
It's pretty good. It's good. Another really good one, a good bourbon, is Jesse James bourbon. Which it's a really cheap bourbon. Huh? Yeah.
That's the biker dude, right?
Yeah, from Jackal. And it's a cheap bourbon, but it's a really good one. I was really impressed with it. I usually have some here at the house. I've
been drinking a lot of the Crown Royal, the big Canadian whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
My parents came to the States, brought some back to me, and there's one batch called the Bourbon Mash. Mm-hmm. I haven't opened it, but I don't think I'll drink it one day, but right now it's more like a collectible for me because I heard the story behind it. I guess Crown Royal and all these liquor companies, they go to a convention in Vegas and they talk about what's coming up in the next year for them, right? So Crown Royal comes out and says, we got this bourbon. Well, just so you know, Brad, bourbon cannot be made outside of the United States.
Bourbon can't be made outside of Kentucky and be called bourbon just about.
Yeah. So guess what happened when they broke that news? People were pretty upset.
Yeah.
So what it says now all over that bottle is this is not bourbon whiskey. I can't count how many times that label is on the bottle and on the box, but it's a really rare batch, and I'm really looking forward to enjoying that. Another one is the Crown Royal Black. You ever tried that one?
I've never been a big Crown guy, but I like it, but I haven't tried the black.
The black is good. Black is very, very good. I have a couple shots every night. It's very good for, cleansing your body from the bacteria that we have out in our society today. I'm fortunate to work. I know you're a paramedic and stuff, so I'm assuming you work as well out there. It's a very dangerous world. We don't know who's telling the truth. We don't know the numbers. I don't want to get into all that stuff because, it really confuses people and it upsets people, as we talked about before. But people are very frustrated being at home. And I watched the video the other day, and it was with a Navy SEAL. He was retiring, and he said, "I don't have a smoker's cough, by the way. I just have a drive-through." He said that every day when you wake up, I know it's very hard right now, but make your bed. Do that small thing. Give yourself a sense of accomplishment, and everything else in the world will be much easier for you to achieve.
Yeah.
So I always look for motivation, man. I look for motivation. I look for good recipes. I always look for something, man. And in times like these, you talk about your job. You talk about your job, how crazy bad it is sometimes. Not everybody likes their job.
Yeah.
Fortunately for me, I enjoy this. I've become more appreciative of my position at this company. I've been more appreciative for people's time, and the people need to redefine themselves during the time and become who they want to be and set goals. Like, you're allowed to still be in shape. You just can't go to the gym here in Canada. You can go for a run. You can go for a walk. You can eat what you want. Your freedom's not taken away from you. And a lot of people are really down right now. Obviously, they can't work, but you got to look at your health. And being a father, and I have a 3-month-old son, every decision I make is for him, right? Yeah. Every decision I go to work, I come home to him. It's the most important thing in my life right now, to make sure that the children are all healthy. And I could ramble on and on about this, but in the current circumstance we're in now, podcasting is becoming very popular. And podcasts like yours, Smoke Meat, I really appreciate you having me on. I'm looking forward to filling my face with this barbecue sauce and making all these. I really like that recipe with the Old Country lemonade. Recipe you just told me about. I'll go try that out as soon as I can. Stuff like that. I like just trying something different. Obviously, my kids are very, open-minded to that stuff. But me and my wife, she's Spanish, I'm Greek. We have a good little mixture of cultures, and we do cook up a storm.
Oh yeah.
We love our meat. And by the way, we talked about the Americans in the South with good barbecue. Mm-hmm. And being Greek, we roast lamb. We're good at the barbecue, on the grill, the charcoal grill.
I'm a huge fan of lamb.
Yeah. Oh, lamb's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
So we thought that we were the king. The Americans think they are the king of barbecue, but the truth is, the Argentinian people are the best barbecuers in the world.
They are some beasts. Oh, man. Yeah. I ever go missing and have to flee the country, That's where I'm going.
I could send you pictures that you would not believe. I went there 2 years ago now, and it was unreal. And I was eating for a couple days, big beef ribs that still have your space in your teeth with meat.
Yeah.
You had to floss for about an hour. Lamb that didn't pool fat after they grilled it. Super tasteful, you know. And then a couple days in, I was eating. I was like, what is on this? What seasoning is on this meat? And it's just rock salt.
Yeah.
Like rock salt, that's it. And it was the most amazing meat I ever had. I had called it beef de chorizo, and that's their big cut of beef, the steak,
Yeah.
I could have killed 2 or 3 of those, but some of the best meat you could ever find, the best barbecue you could ever find, is in Argentina. And I definitely recommend going down there and comparing yourself and your skills to what they got down there, because for me, I got blown out of the water. I also gained a bunch of weight.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll tell you.
Back and a bunch of water weight.
Here is a challenge for anybody listening to this. Anyone out there with a little spare money and wants to send 2 fat boys to Argentina for a very special podcast, we will be grateful. Send me a message.
We got a family down there waiting for us. My family's down there. My wife's family, sorry, and I guess they are my family. They will house us, but they may not be able to contain our hunger. So it'll be a big festival coming to the village.
Oh, yeah. Looking forward to the meat sweats, baby. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, George,
I'll have to make it up there to Georgia sometime.
Hey, you're welcome here anytime. You got this number. All you got to do is holler and say, yoo-hoo, pick me up at the airport, fat boy, I'm hungry.
Yeah, I will do that.
Well, cool. Well, man, I've had a ball today, and I'm looking forward to doing this again anytime you want on here. All you got to do is holler. You know that.
Awesome. I appreciate it, Brad, and I hope for you to come on to my podcast sometime soon.
Definitely. Definitely.